Hi, it's Tim Hagan from Progress Coaching, and welcome to another episode for the Coaching Conversations podcast. Now, we are on Stitcher, we are on iTunes, and multiple different channels. Please check us out. Now, one of the things that you'll get out of our podcast episodes is a lot of content, a lot of strategy. It's not fluff, it's not concept, yet we really want you to engage with the content and let us know your feedback. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. If there's topics you'd love to have us address, we would love to share them with you. Let us know your impact and let us know your feedback. You know, when you think about all the training and all the leadership initiatives and the team development programs out there, I'm wondering if we're missing something that is so fundamental, it's right in front of us. As theatrical as that sounds, let me explain. I think what inhibits people from working together is twofold. One, the way we converse. Two, the way we react. And our reaction is typically predicated upon something that we call emotional interpretation. So when we approach somebody and say, that's not a good looking jacket, or you're late for work again and you got to cut it out, or you have a bad attitude, in that moment, do we react emotionally or logically? Typically emotionally. Now, when we're emotional, do we typically keep it to ourselves or do we tell other people? And then we transition from this thing called reality to non-reality. Let me give you an example. Think about two politicians. Think about, President Trump and President Biden in their last debate. They had to get a moderator so they wouldn't talk over each other. Now, at the end, both sides said, my candidate did great. They both did great. They both did poorly. And so our view of reality is already skewed because we really can't go against the tide of people. So when you think about the ability to converse and showing up for conversations, think about a time when you were talking to somebody and they peeked down at their phone and then they looked up and said, oh, I'm sorry, what did you say? What happens to you in that moment? Does it excite you to continue the conversation? Or does it upset you? Let me give you another one. I witnessed a conversation between a boss and an employee the other day. And in the boss's defense, he was very, very busy. Good guy, really good leader. And I could tell he was distracted. And we were having a conversation. There were three other people in the meeting, and I think there were about 4 or 5 of us total. And the one employee was talking and looking at him, and you could tell he wasn't there. You could tell something else was on his mind. He probably shouldn't have attended the meeting, or we should have reconvened for a later time. And when she got done explaining her idea, now remember her idea, he said, okay, well, that's interesting. And you could just tell he had no clue what she had just said. And so I looked at him, and I'll use a different name, and I said, Bob, I said, what specifically did you like about the idea? And I wanted to get clarification so she would not leave upset. And it was a little risky what I did. And he said, you know what, to be honest with you guys, I'm so sorry. My head is in another space. I didn't really get the context of what you were presenting. And he looked at it as an employee. And to his credit, he apologized. She looked dismayed, defeated, upset. She spoke for maybe 3 minutes. And when she was done, you could tell he wasn't listening. So afterwards, I went up to her and I said, I'm not going to ask how you're feeling because I think I know. What do you think happened in that conversation? And she said, he never listens to me. He never likes my ideas. She was taking what occurred and labeled every interaction she had ever had with her boss, probably pretty unfairly. Now, was he unfair in the moment? Absolutely. So I said, look, I'm going to plant a seed with you. You decide if it's going to grow. Give him some latitude. I'm not forgiving. I'm not saying what he did was not a mistake. Yet, when we all make mistakes, and if we throw our hands up and say, that's it, I'm never going to work with him. And I said, I know you're not saying that. She said, no, okay, good point. And I said, give him a little latitude. And to her credit, she went back and she said, look, I understand you're distracted. Let me know when you have a time. This idea is really important to me. He looked at her and said, I owe you the biggest apology. My job is to listen and serve my people, and I failed you. Now, it took maybe an intermediary, someone like myself or somebody, to watch this and then kind of bring the parties back together. Now, what would have happened, whether it was me or someone else? I'm not trying to praise myself, yet what I'm trying to illustrate is, wow, had I not jumped in, she would have gone and told 3 or 4 other people she was upset. He would never have known unless I asked him the question in the meeting. I then went back to him and I said, look, I met with your employee and I said, I think he, needs to talk to you and, present her idea. And he said, I was just not, my head was not in that meeting. So think about this, everybody. Think about 8 hours a day, never making a mistake. And for gosh sake, be on. Do not lose eye contact. Make sure you active listen every single conversation. It's not going to happen, right? Yet we do have to practice conversational skills. So I want to introduce you to a concept. And if you're intrigued, fill out the link that we have within this article. And it's called rotating conversations. They are different conversations that bring people together for better teamwork, better understanding, better communication, better collaboration, better context to one another. We tell some great stories of where people had misunderstandings and later became great coworkers. The foundation of every organization, the culture of every organization is predicated upon how we converse and communicate with each other. I'm going to say it. It requires practice. We don't listen to each other like we used to. We take things out of context. We hear one thing and it becomes something else very quickly. The ability to have good conversations is at the foundation of leadership, teamwork, collaboration, communication. It's called rotating conversations. It is a course designed for leaders to implement rotating conversations within their teams and even cross-departmentally. The dreaded silos. If you're intrigued, fill out the form and we'll get you some information. Thank you for listening to another episode of Coaching Conversations by Tim Hagen and Progress Coaching. Now, our company is always coming out with new and innovative solutions to help leaders coach their employees. And recently, we just created a new service called Coach to You, where leaders can pick and choose topics and assign 7 to 21-day programs for employees to learn and, more importantly, apply actions and then reflect and share what they're going to do going forward as a result of the learning. It's called Coach to You. We're literally bringing coaching to your employees. If you're intrigued, we'll have a link in each one of our episodes where you can get more information. And again, thank you so much for listening to another episode.